the very first episode of Austin as it used to be. And this guy, Daniel Young, he's the GM of Dirty Martin's Place, a building that's probably seen more history of Austin, Texas than he and I both combined. We're young fellas. I just lost hair at a young age. He still has good follicles. We created this series because it was an idea about 2 years ago, because I told you I was starting a podcast in 2020, and we were talking about it here in this bar at Dirty Martin's Place. But this episode, number one, it's the installment, and it's the overall episode 251. And why Dirty Martin's Place? Well, good people like this, and it's for people like me who are actually an OG. He's an OG, and a guy we're going to introduce you, he's an adopted OG of Austin. This is one of those focal points. People gravitate to this place, and a lot of history under this ceiling. So, Daniel Young, we're called unicorns here, and you're the new co-host of the newest series of pods under the Stories Inside the Man Cave umbrella. I know we briefly touched base on it in a promo, but what do we hope to achieve in this series?
I was thinking about that a lot today, and I think there's just a lot of people out there that just want their stories to be told. And I mean, that's having spent almost every day here for the past almost 8 years, I've gotten to know a lot of Austinites very, very well. And I hear the same story over and over and over again about, what has happened to the soul of Austin. And it's a question that's worth exploring. So I think that's going to be what we're going to be touching on first and foremost. Just getting some probably some of the customers that I've been having conversations with come in here and tell their stories. And a lot of these folks, went to UT in the 50s, and their parents went to UT in the 1920s. Anyway, there's just there's a lot of really cool history to be uncovered.
So, and if you look over this shoulder right here, just ask yourself in this situation, what would Willie do? What would he do in this situation?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think he would keep Austin dirty. I mean, that's
keep it dirty, baby. When in doubt, be dirty.
We've got a lot of work to do. But I'm very excited about seeing what we can do with this podcast, and really getting people's voices heard out here. I'm personally very invested because I grew up in this neighborhood. I actually grew up like right over on 32nd and Duval, late 80s. So I've been coming to Dirty's since I was about 7 or 8 years old, back when Austin was a small town.
Yeah.
And my brother and I would ride our bikes up and down the drag, and it was like there were no problems. We were friends with most of the homeless people and hung out at Einstein's Arcade and Tower Records. And So it's
and they never served underage drinkers ever.
I can't tell you. I might have had my first beer at Posse East at age 14, but maybe I didn't say that.
There was a special place on Airport Boulevard.
Yeah.
That's no longer in business. We'd go in high school.
Yeah, that's right.
And you had to climb up a stairway to get up there.
That's right. These are the stories we want to hear. So.
It's very dirty. Not like Dirties, but
yeah.
So when you hear the term unicorn, so I left for 20 years after high school. Came back in late 2012, and I was told I was a unicorn, and I was like, that awkward laugh, ha ha, because I don't know what you mean. It took me a year to find out why everyone was calling me a unicorn. How long did it take you to realize what that meant?
I think there was actually a customer in here yesterday. And he knew that I was a unicorn, and he did this like unicorn like weird.
Oh my God!
It's like we both have to touch heads like this, and it was that's a little awkward. I don't know if
that was. I
want to go that far with the unicorn.
That was fun,
but And I'm also going to reveal something else. I was actually born in Mobile, Alabama. I moved here at age 5.
That
So
counts.
I'm not necessarily a native, but I still consider myself a
You're
native.
an adopted,
and I've
adopted
basically
native.
lived in this vicinity, this area, really or worked in this area around UT since the 80s. So I remember playing in Waller Creek and
would you recommend
going to football games in the late 80s when it cost $3 to get in
the north end zone?
Yeah,
North
just walked
end
in
zone.
and there was the track and
Hot dogs were 50 cents.
Yeah. And I love hearing the stories from the guys that went to the games in the 60s with those teams. And I mean, that's the cool thing about Dirties is these folks come in here and they have so many amazing stories. So
a lot of historic.
Yeah.
You know, you've got like Darryl Royal's picture right back here.
Yeah.
You know, Ben Crenshaw.
Crenshaw is a great customer. Merle Campbell right behind us is a great customer.
Rose,
Yeah.
He talk about ties. So
yeah,
let's talk about those right now. Now, as I mentioned, this first episode is just trying to get acquainted. You see my mug enough, but I want you guys to get to know who Daniel Young is. So when you visit Dirties, you have a face. Now, there's a whole host of characters here, and that's another story that have been here forever. And they're starting to feel like family to me now.
That's right.
Your ties to UT and the Dirties journey, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I grew up in this neighborhood. Before I was at Dirties, I worked at the AT&T Conference Center.
Oh, wow.
Which is right by the tower, and I was there actually 7 years. I opened up the restaurants there and continued to run the restaurants from 2008 to 2015. So literally, that's it's a block from the tower. So I bleed burnt orange, man. And I guess after 7 years, I was a little tired of the corporate mentality and wearing a suit every day. And I saw, hey, Dirties is hiring. At that time, it was a sales and marketing sort of intern, or maybe sales and marketing director. But I came in and met with Mark Niemer, the owner, and we immediately hit it off and came up with some grand plans to put a full bar in here that we currently have, and enclose this back room. So after a couple years, those things were in play, and boy, our business really started to take off. And so it's been an amazing journey. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Sean mentioned, the cast of characters we have here. We have 4 cooks that have all been here over 20 years. Most people know them by their first name. There's Val Franco, Will Colvin, Big Z, Zyron Turner, and Johnny Gomez. All of them have been here 20 to 26 years.
Why do you think they stay? I mean, obviously they're happy, but
it's just it's a family. It's a family of employees, and we know everything about we just love each other. We like coming and working together, and we try to. I think in the scheme of things, like it's good. The work-life balance is good for a restaurant. Everybody gets 2 days off in a row. We're not open late. We try to close at 9 p.m. every day so people can get home and see their families. So from the top down, we're not necessarily like a greedy organization. That we really put our employees first. And
I got to add to that. If please go to Instagram, and I want you to follow Dirty Martins there on Twitter, Facebook, because they make it really fun. It's almost like contagious.
Yeah.
And you watch these guys, and you'll probably seen their faces in the 80s. One of them, and he'll be on a future episode, his father worked here, correct?
That's right.
So it's a generational deal.
It's a very generational thing.
And that's a beautiful thing, actually.
A lot of our older customers actually really remember the cast we had before the guys we have now. There was Doc, who was the car hop for 50 years. There was Margie and Faye, who were sisters, who were both servers and managers that were here 40 years. There was JT and Wes, who were brothers and were the cooks. And the big story about them is grabbing the meat out of the pickle buckets and slamming it on the grill. And it's really like a theater back there. I mean, that's what people's biggest memory is coming in and actually watching these guys just create art with hamburger patties. And we in the late 80s, I believe it was, the health inspector came in and said there was too much grease splattering on the vegetables. That's cross-contamination. So we had to go to our preformed patties that we still have now. But that's people's favorite story to tell. And I'm hoping we'll find some guests that can really, go into some more detail of the dirties of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
That's amazing. So, obviously there's a lot of stories, historically speaking, related to Austin, Texas history here. Each room has some semblance of a piece of history as far as not only here, but the city.
Right.
As far as the city of Austin history, we're going to have guests not related to dirties, but tied to you. I mean, what do you think is that story, a piece of Austin history that continues to come up here in conversations or tied to Dirty Martin's Place?
There's so many, but the evolution of Dirties has been an interesting one, and I think it kind of ties into what restaurants were doing across the nation. I mean, before 1975, and some of our older customers could tell you, most of the business was just out in the parking lot, and it was just all car hop service.
Oh, wow.
So the really cool thing is our parking lot, we still have that awning, which it's an original structure from, I believe the late 1930s. But my grandparents, for instance, who both went to UT, went on a date in that parking lot in 1947, and they sat under the canopy and flashed their headlights, and a car hop brought out their food and drinks. And
is that where your mom and dad were made?
Yeah, possibly. I don't know, probably shouldn't get
the conception.
Probably shouldn't get into that on this podcast. We got to keep it PG. But so, and then further on down the line, this room we're in now was originally a bar called the Friendly Tavern from 1950 to 1963, 65, somewhere in there. Yeah. It was a separate business altogether.
Oh wow!
And then the room that's enclosed behind us was actually a gas station for the longest time. So it was 3 separate businesses, and over time, Dirty's just kind of we added on. We connected the 2 businesses with this hallway, and then the gas station was just a parking lot for a little bit until we made it into a patio. But
when did the hallway? What year was that?
I want to say 1963, 1964. Okay. I mean, the dates, it's somewhere in that time frame, early to mid 60s.
So this area by UT, and I know we're getting close to wrapping up here. We want to keep these about 15 to 20 minutes long each episode, but I know UT has been, a lot of people just take things for granted, human nature wise. There was another restaurant, Players.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Players,
very similar.
Yeah.
Great food, great. Yeah. But I liked it. That was heartbreaking. That was a big piece of history on MLK.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay? Uh-huh. When they shut down and they were bulldozed, did those customers automatically migrate over here?
I think we definitely got some of them, but we have just our core group of regulars that I definitely hear about Players a lot. And that was a huge loss for the Austin community. Huge loss. I mean, I'm sure we did get some of their customers, yes, but I don't like to think of it that way. Those guys were really our friends.
They are, still are.
Places like Posse East and Crown and Anchor and the Tavern, and we're all a community of old restaurants, and we all have each other's backs. And honestly, the competition is good for all of us. It keeps us sharp. So, yeah.
Hey, man, tell me something good.
All right, Daniel Young, GM of Dirty Martin's Place. We're hitting about the 14-minute, 30-second mark on this first episode of Austin as it used to be. I've got something that we both can do. Tell me something good. Usually it would be you first, then me. Well, we're going to add a third piece to it, and our guest of honor, VIP, Madness bracket, just VIP, Mo Benson. There he is. Let's get in here. And there's Daniel. This is organic as it gets.
That's organic.
So you probably saw on Twitter, Instagram, our Facebook page, some special photos. Daniel, Mo, not only getting acquainted. By the way, Mo purchased food. He got a gift card. This is the designated or the champion of the first ever Stories Inside the Man Cave Bracket Challenge. And Daniel was so generous. And a $100 gift card to the champion, I think, gives a lot of incentive. So you guys are now buddies.
Yeah.
Friends for life. What was your secret to winning the bracket challenge?
UConn.
UConn, baby.
That's it. I feel like I'm one of the only people in the world who picked UConn in the Final Four, and that literally paid off. Won every bracket I was in with that pick.
Yeah. Now, I can't remember. I know I was updating the second day of every round. Where were you before the Final Four? I'm trying to remember.
Before the Final Four, I was in 6th place, like in the middle.
Yeah.
And then going into the Final Four, I was the only person who could score points,
Yeah.
which is why I won. Which
Yeah.
is pretty much what happened in every pool.
That's
exactly
true.
Right?
what
Because
happened.
no one
That's
had
very true.
anyone in the Final Four but me.
You know, there
That's
were
right.
2 entries
Yeah.
who were going. And I got to admit this. This is my fault. I'm too honest. And Willie is overlooking our shoulders, keeping me in line. That's why I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
I learned something. As the commissioner of the league, I did not lock
Yeah.
the brackets.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was an unlock. So there were 2 people
Snuck in.
snuck in and out. We had 43 entries, in and out. I know it may remind you of something, but in and out,
Yeah.
in and out like that. And I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, so those 2, I acknowledged the overall winner, but the guy who deserves it's right here.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
They did sneak in there at the end, too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it took some investigative work.
Yeah, I saw that. I
to
was
figure that
surprised.
out.
They were
They would have been leading the whole time if they'd been in it.
Yeah.
okay.
So
Yeah.
right,
They
not.
were picking the games after they'd already been played. Or,
No,
They were just dropping their picks
brackets
in
and
so they
any-
could win.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
these
But
are your friends of yours?
they're not
No.
friends of mine.
Oh.
They're from other parts of the
Okay,
country.
okay.
However, I got to give a shout out to Noah Diana 14. We had a nice little DM conversation.
All right.
He's a young guy, high school.
All right.
Just had his prom or his high school senior photos made.
Nice.
Nice.
Minneapolis, Minnesota, man. Congratulations on the thaw out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
spring is here. Yeah. So Mo Benson, man, and so he is good friends with our only sister. You know, the queen of Stories Inside the Man Cave.
Yeah.
That being Tess Sawyer. So she was very devastated she didn't win the bracket.
She
challenge.
was.
'Cause she was in number 1 for a long time. Did
And
you
she
rub
was-
it in?
I didn't yet, but I haven't had a chance to do it in person. But she picked well, right? Like, it's hard to pick Texas as a homer, and she did. And I felt like we were all kind of talking smack about you can't pick Texas, blah, blah, blah. It turns out she was pretty much spot on.
Yeah.
Until they folded, right? And so she probably should have won it all. Quite frankly.
She was number 1, but I told her don't use your heart
Right.
with any picks.
But it worked. I mean, she literally
Jeez.
was dominating most of the year.
I pick Texas every year.
Yeah,
Did you?
There you go.
Even that Abilene Christian loss.
Oh,
that was,
God.
Don't get me started.
yeah, that
That
was
was
a
heartbreaking.
devastating.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. We got to go back about 5 years. I'm still not over the Notre Dame tip-in in the round of 32 against Stephen F. Austin.
Yeah. That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My face is green. It's not with envy. It's because I'm about to puke. That game was heartbreaking.
Yeah. it was.
Yeah.
Oh, so moving forward, we got to have Mo more. Thank you first off for being a loyal viewer and constantly involved, and you and Tess communicating, and making fun of her is always a great thing, and in the most positive way.
Right,
Everybody
right.
loves Tess. And your piece, how long have you been in Austin?
Long time. I first moved here in 87. Graduated from UT in 92, and I stayed here till about 2006 or 7.
Yeah.
Moved to New York for 10 years, moved to Pittsburgh for 2 years, and then moved back 4 years ago. So all in, I've been here for 20 years, I would say. Austin's home for me. And
Yeah.
by the way, I grew up in College Station. So
Oh,
my
there
dad,
you go.
My dad worked at A&L.
Okay.
But I still went to UT. So.
Hey,
There you
there's
go.
no
Yeah.
love lost there.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you before we wrap things up, this subject matter,
Yeah.
I don't know how successful this will be, but I like to think that it will resonate with quite a few people because of how quickly we're evolving as a city.
Yeah.
You've seen it
Yeah.
firsthand.
Oh yeah.
What's your thoughts of having these conversations as we, change is inevitable
Right.
as we let go of certain things?
I mean, I think it's good, right? The heart of Austin, the soul of Austin needs to remain that keep Austin weird vibe.
Mhm.
And I don't think people have an appreciation of how big the city is versus how small it used to be. Like I remember when the TGI Fridays opened up
Yep.
at the Arboretum, and we would be in the dorm room and someone would be like, hey, we go to the Arboretum for dinner. And we'd be like, oh my God, that's like South Dallas.
Yeah.
Like we're not making that drive.
I remember that.
And that's Midtown.
Yeah.
That's barely Midtown of Austin now. That
Yeah.
just shows you how it's
It's very
grown.
true.
And there's people who move in here just think the city's always been that way, and it has not.
Yeah.
And I think all of us are just getting used to it.
Yeah.
So,
I would
yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I really appreciate working here because you're always going to know somebody,
Yeah.
and I think especially for whatever reason, like Tuesday lunch is like old Austin, who's who in Austin. People are always running into each other that hadn't seen each other in a while, and so in these walls, it still feels like a small town. And
Yeah.
so
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you said that.
yeah,
And what we're going to try to do, we're going to bring guests on. We're going to have some content, but we needed you to get situated with this in the background. And Mo, you got to see it. We need more FaceTime because, and so be sure to share this, like it, follow it, retweet it, put it in your IG story, whatever you want to do. And if you want to sponsor this and get involved, and we'll create more content, or you have ideas, shoot us a DM on Instagram or Twitter. So until episode number 2 of Austin as it used to be, and I'm going to edit this part out because I just screwed myself here. For Mo, he's up there.
Thank you.
You get a badge. What do you on Facebook? You get a badge for liking something or being a big fan. You
Am I
get
big
the
one?
unofficial
Yeah.
badge for our Instagram
Yeah.
following.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and the Soho House, by
Yes,
the way.
thank you.
That's a good part of
Yeah.
Austin history now.
Yeah.
So
Who knew?
for Mo and VDY, Daniel Young, not the former Texas running back, but they are related, I think. Some way, maybe.
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 I still need a picture with them. If you're listening, other Daniel Young, look, we got to do this.
Oh, hold on, let me do a plug too. By the way, I have a rule when I win these pools, I donate the money. So I appreciate the $100, but I donated $100 in our pool name to the Capital Area Food Bank.
Oh wow.
So just
Very nice.
FYI, that's
a great.
never know what to
Yeah.
do with the money. I just always do that.
That's a great donation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
That
bought
is.
200 meals.
For the
Yeah.
generosity that we all need to follow
Mhm.
and be more involved in our community to keep some of what Austin,
Yeah.
how it used to be. For Mo, for Daniel, we are out.